Good day everyone, hope you're all doing really well. Welcome to Kokomi's world. We are literally inside Kokomi's house. I mean, that is a first for this channel. And you can see, well, it's kind of a bit empty, but I mean, obviously it's unmodeled on the inside. And boy, does it take quite a lot of skill to break into this place. That's why it's taken me so long, but hey, I'm actually very happy to be here. Let's just use Kokomi's alt. And to be quite honest with you guys, this is Kokomi's world. So if you know Kokomi's ultimate, things might have looked weird. In fact, if you look around, things are really weird because where's everyone? There's no teleporter, there's no guard. If you are confused, welcome to Kokomi's world. Just as Kokomi's eyes are dead and really, really beautiful, we are now going to explore this very dead and beautiful world of Kokomi. So what is actually happening? Well, the TLDR is, in a special quest in Genshin Impact, you typically are teleported to an alternative version in Teyvat, where the whole map is unloaded, and typically, if you think of like, let's say the Natlan War in Act 5.1, you can only play in a very specific area, whereas the rest of the terrain might be modified, etc, etc. But what is important is that if you go outside of bounds of the special playable area, the rest of the world is actually not there, and presumably the Genshin devs did this to save a lot of space. For those of you that are familiar with Musashi's Nilo's World type of video, during the Archon quest, the Sumru Archon quest, you have that special section where Nilo walks, and with a glitch you can glitch out of that and effectively explore the entire world of Teyvat as it is unloaded. So there are no enemies, no teleporters, no teleport triggers, etc. And this gives you an opportunity to just see the landscape for what it is, which is effectively Kokomi's world here. But there is a bit of a difference between my version and Musashi's version. The biggest being is that practically, with one interesting exception, we can traverse as far out of bounds as we want. Yes, there is literally no Paimon barrier anywhere. And I'll explain more of this as the video goes along, but the first couple of things that I want you to see on our sightseeing journey is that obviously here at the Tsaratsuna you can see there is no blank barrier, and obviously when you go to the main city of Inazuma, nobody is there, and I actually find this to be very, very gorgeous because by the fact that there is nobody, no NPCs, no nothing in the way, you can actually really appreciate the beauty of a lot of these places. If you also remembered, like in Musashi's video, he also went to a couple of areas, and it being unloaded actually gives you very, very beautiful scenery, and that's just kind of what I wanted to do in today's video. We're gonna go to Natlan as well a short bit, and not cry a bit later in the video because I think Musashi hasn't done those, and I really don't want to just or copy the content that someone else has already put out, or maybe that someone else on Bilibili has put out. So I'm just giving it my little special twist in today's video. And for those of you that are going to be sticking around until the end, there's just a couple of things you might have already noticed. I'm going to zoom in and out at different points in this video because sometimes when you use mods you can hide the full UI, and that's a good thing, but sometimes when I did these recordings, because I do them on separate days, I didn't do that quite properly, so I'm going to have to zoom in more on the characters. It's a bit of a mess, but the TLDR is I don't want Hoyo to see my character's health, I don't want Hoyo to see the ping on my screen, and I don't want them... The names of your characters are fine because those will typically be locally stored and such, but I don't want to give Hoyo any indication of which account this happened, because then they can actually... I think they'll figure out very, very quickly how this type of glitch is done. It's done in a very unusual manner. I mean, there are certain... I don't want to give away too many glitches in Genshin Impact, but there's a glitch using an item that you get at the very start of the game that's very infamous, but this type of glitch is really unique in terms of the execution. But that's all I'm going to say. So okay, let's just speed up a bit of the footage because I know it can actually get really boring if you have to sit through all of this. Currently we are at Serai Island, and it's a beautiful place when it's unloaded. You don't have the dark purple background, but it still shows you that the environment kind of works. Even the purple trees and stuff here I really like. And as we obviously go closer into the area where the thunder is, you'll still see, if you saw there, like a bit of like a couple of the flashes. This shows you that certain environmental effects and lighting are actually baked in, even though there might not be an actual illumination source. You can see there with the thunder, which is very interesting to how they do these effects. And this is what I love about these types of out of bounds like gameplay, because you just see things that you won't normally see in Genshin. It's kind of like a bit of a behind the scenes peek at what the developers have done. I wish the Genshin devs would actually put out some content on YouTube saying exactly how these areas look, how they look when they're unmodified, and so on. But yeah, look, if you've seen Musashi's video, you've kind of already seen all of this. But the whole point is, and especially on this specific account that I'm using, I haven't done the quest here, so there is just no point. Although I am using the, by the way, just the Kokomi glider mod, which I'll link down below in the description. I always do that for these videos, especially on accounts that I don't have the KFC glider or the latest one in the Lunar quest. So I just like this Kokomi glider. In any case, here is Serai Island. I don't think Musashi covered this, but effectively none of the puzzles. So this should have puzzles for this account. Everything is unloaded as well. So that's just kind of like a bit of an interesting tidbit and such, which I just find, yeah. It's almost like if there are certain areas, which you'll see later with the Not Cry region, that are quest locked, or that only open with quests like this door, for instance, in this unloaded world, all of them are open, which does give you a bit of an interesting sense of how you can traverse the place, and also without the doors, just how damn confusing things can be. In any case, I said earlier that we can go arbitrarily far out of bounds. You can see how far down I am from here with Serai Island, and one of the interesting things here with Farina is that we can now walk infinitely far out. In the past, whenever I've gone this far out using the Paimon barrier glitch, I was always able to use a Wave Rider, or let's say a Kukasaur or Koholosaur, to fly out. But one thing that I never knew was that this body of water doesn't actually stretch out infinitely. So there comes a point where the actual horizon disappears. But one thing that I have found is that there are actually two layers of water, and I didn't know this before. The first is the illusion that there is water, and the other is the actual functioning water. So you'll see here in just a bit, as I'm keep running here for now, even though it looked like there was water in front of me, the actual playable area of water, as you can see, only stretches like this far. But despite it stretching far, you can see, obviously there on the little map that I showed quickly, it actually stretches really far out of the map, and there is the underground of the Sumru, of the Inazuma place. So this is just something that's very interesting, but I can give you a bit of a spoiler. Out here, beyond the bounds of Tevat, it's literally just like an empty map like you would see in Meliastra Wonderland. So there's no secret or hidden thing right or outside of that area. In any case, let's go to Not Cry. So this is how Not Cry looks when it is unloaded. And this is the exception that I'd spoken about a bit earlier in the video. There's a reason we have Sarouche, and that's because I'm using two different glitches to actually unload the world here in Genshin Impact. So this is the thing that I do not understand, because it does break all of my knowledge of Genshin's internal mechanics. But effectively, when like if you saw Musashi's video with Nilo, if you go too far north, there is actually a teleport barrier, and you can't get, for instance, to the northern half of like Fontaine, and the same applies here with Not Cry as well. And funnily enough, if you unload the world here in Not Cry, you can't actually get to the halves of the other, or like the rest of the game, which is really weird. I don't know how that works, but in any case, at least, you know, with a bit of like background footage here, you guys can see how Not Cry, or some of the regions here, Not Cry look when it's unloaded. Typically what happened was I was just literally playing around, and I was like, okay, what would happen if we go now to Natlan from this perspective? So I actually started Funnily enough, with this whole unloading glitch, I actually started in Natlan, and then I just was like, okay, let's see how far we can go. And this is where things got super, super confusing, because I went here and I was like, okay, there's a Shrine of Depths, it's unloaded, there's the Dark, and there are no whales in the sea, it's blah, 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 it's pretty cool and fine. And then when I got to this point, it was just an auto yeet, which is really, really strange. So I find this very, very amusing, but somehow the coding of this game is interesting. Obviously, keep in mind that we are playing with the internet on. In any case, so here is us now in Natlan. So this is now the other side of the barrier. So I don't think Musashi has ever shown this, but this is more like how the Stadium of Flames look when it's unloaded. For some reason, it's this bright, bright color. Although that may be, I'm just gonna put it in air quotes, maybe related to how I do the glitch, you know, I'm just gonna cross my fingers, not give too much away. But yeah, so here we're just gonna drive with little Kachina, and I'll show you the inside of the stadium as well. Typically there's not much to show as regards to the rest of Natlan. I think if you've ever done the trial stages for Kanish or Mualani, it's basically the same. There's an unloaded world and there's nothing outside, but I think what's interesting is just to see how this place looks on the inside. So you can see obviously certain barriers. I think these are like hard-coded barriers in the game. They're still going to be present. We're going to go and see what's up there with Catherine as well, and you can see there's a bit of fog, which is interesting. But yeah, there's no gameplay, there's no music, there's no crafting bench, no freaking God, I forgot his name, that stands there. There's no Kanich next to Catherine or whatever. So yeah, this is the world of Kachina, if we can put it like that. In any case, let's go back to Notcry, because I want to show you something really cool. Because at the end of the day, when you're in this world where things are what do you call it, unloaded and so on, you also get to see what happens when you go to Colombina's cave. And the way this works is, in Colombina's cave, if the internet's connected, you will automatically switch to the traveler. In this like world, unloaded world, that teleport trigger, or that trigger to switch to a traveler, is not actually active. So this means we can go into Colombina's cave and effectively walk around with Kokomi or with any character that we really like. You can see here that if you've done the quest, obviously this cave is open. If you haven't done the quest in this cave is kind of closed. At the time of recording this in the Luna 1 version of Genshin Impact, for me on my account, this cave was actually closed, but I did know that it would be open. As you can see here, nothing happens. We're not forcibly going to swap into Kokomi. And then obviously when I did this glitch, I did this glitch a couple of times. So in the beginning, I just wanted to like a bit of like good Kokomi footage and such. So what you'll see now is, this is me now playing with the appropriate mods, so we can get a bit of a much better picture, like a much more normal picture, because I'm not going to give anything away in terms of my UID or the ping or whatever. So yeah, here you can see me just like walking with Kokomi, and we can stay here. This is going to be beyond the 30 seconds of internet disconnect. If you don't know, you can actually go to Colombina's cave, and if you disconnect the internet for about 30 seconds, you can walk with any character and such. But in this case, you can see we can now walk with Kokomi, and we've got no time limit on any of this, which I think is pretty cute. So yeah, this is Kokomi's world, her world where she is literally the new moon goddess. She is the new Colombina. Okay, joking around, but I just thought this was cool. So yeah, this is part of my adventures in Genshin Impact. I love doing things like these, being able to explore and play the game in a way that not a lot of other people do. All of these glitches are done using in-game techniques, nothing funny, there's no third-party plugin. The only thing that is quote-unquote third-party are the skin mods, but these actually work like an NVIDIA filter. So, I mean, it's like when you have your gliders, it's just that what you see on the screen is a different glider, but the game still registers it as either the normal or whatever glider. So it's kind of that. And that's also why Hoyo has never banned any of my accounts, because all of this is done legitimately, but it takes a freaking long time to sometimes do it. Sometimes these glitches involve like one frame of timing, and also you need to layer different things, certain books, and there are certain ways and stuff, and a lot of it's just experimentation. Sometimes I get lucky, sometimes there is no glitch, but for me it's absolutely worth it to be able to do things like stand here with Kokomi. If you've enjoyed this video, if you've stayed so far, thank you so much for watching, and let me know what you think of all this bizarreness down below. Cheers.